Actually, we'll be live when this loads. All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our broadcast. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. And also, I want to thank everyone for your patience as we work through some technical difficulties. I see some folks have already joined. Again, I thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, the topic for today, uncovering the mask where faith intersects justice. So, I think we're all aware of the current climate that we live in terms of injustice, inequality, the world we live in terms of the biases that people of color, Black people, marginalized people are facing at this current moment. So we thought it apropos to come on and share some of our experiences, address the current state of affairs, and talk about where we go from here and how we are all accountable to move forward on this issue. So I want to introduce my panel. First and foremost, those of us who have been together in this forum over the last couple of weeks may be familiar with my brother, Cameron McCarty, of Cisco, who is dialing in from Raleigh, North Carolina. And I want to introduce to this audience Miss Danielle Brown. Danielle is a formidable singer and songwriter, as well as a minister and activist. So I thought it important to have a diverse array of voices today on this topic, and I want to thank my panel for being here. So first and foremost, let's let's just talk about how racism has presented itself in our particular lives. And Danielle, I want to start with you.
Okay. Well, thank you first for having me on. I just want to kind of
Danielle,
share,
can you hear
my
me?
thoughts on things. You can hear me well?
Hold on.
Yeah,
Cameron, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Testing.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Danielle, let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, I've heard. I can hear you.
Can you hear us, Shafran?
For having me on.
Oh, there she is.
I just want to kind of share, my thoughts on things. You can hear me
I
well?
can hear you now.
Okay. So I think there's a little delay, but hopefully, Cameron, can you hear me? Yeah, there's a delay. I can hear myself speaking back.
Danielle, let me know if you can hear me.
All right. I think Danielle, if you just want to go ahead and talk, I think Shafran might be able to catch up on it.
Okay. All right. So basically, you know, I I've had a lot of conversations with different people this week, last week, in regards to what we are seeing in America. And honestly, I believe that we all have kind of worn a mask of sorts. Some of us have worn masks to protect our friends and, to kind of keep the waters calm. We have decided to not speak out on injustice when we see it. A lot of times, injustice and racism is not always something that you see with the unaided eye. It's not always overt. Sometimes it can be covert. Sometimes it can be in a joke that we kind of laugh off and whatnot because we don't want to stick out. We don't want to be that sore thumb. I can remember being in, a choir and being the only Black, and it's kind of like, oh, you're the token, and like, oh, ha, ha, ha. But as I got older, and I realized those connotations of things that we didn't understand at the time, and honestly, I believe like we've come to this moment. We've seen this time and time again. We've seen the murders of people. We've seen, the riots for a moment. We've seen the kumbaya I feel like we've done the amazing grace. And so I'm kind of the mindset, when you continually do the same thing the same way, it's insanity. I believe that, unfortunately, where we are right now, with Mr. Floyd's death, with Miss Breonna Taylor's death, I believe now, in this moment, the people who thought that we were either making this up or making it bigger than what it really was, I think they now see for themselves the injustice that we have faced for so long, for themselves. And so for America to see a man die before their eyes for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, nobody in their right mind is going to sit back and be like, oh, maybe he did something wrong. Everybody, I believe, in this moment is affected, to passion for change. That's my biggest message, and I've always had, is that we have to be the catalyst for change. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I identify with what you're saying, especially concerning invisibility in a way. For me, I've experienced racism more so on a micro aggression side. So many people think of racism as an overt thing all the time, just based on everything that's happening right now. But I can really think, especially in school, corporate America, the different questions that I have been asked, like going to a predominantly white institution for college, and automatically the assumption that I could not be there on my own merit. The assumption that I must be there on a basketball scholarship. Not
Yeah,
that there's
yeah,
anything wrong with that, but those kinds of assumptions. I remember in my younger years, I would never be asked if I was married or if I had children. I was always asked how many children I
yeah,
had.
yes,
Just different things like that, dealing with not wanting to be the angry Black woman in my workplace, or even sometimes going places with my bandmates. I would be the only white Black face in a white space. And thankfully,
mm-hmm.
all was well in my experience, but I walked into those rooms nervous about how things would go, how I would be treated, being the only person that looked like me in that space. So there's so many layers and so many levels, and there's so much heaviness having to walk around with the burden of dealing with that. And it's just happening to play out on a larger scale with all the deaths that have been happening for a long time. But we're just now bringing attention to it with the advent of social media and other channels. So
Absolutely.
I think it's high time we had a conversation, and I'm thankful that ears are open, that people are paying attention. So,
And if I could just interject one thing, and I think, like, I was telling a group of people, like, I do a lot of blogging, and I have different messages. And so, like, I was telling someone the other day, there's a distinct difference between hearing and listening. We
mm-hmm,
have to be able to listen to what is being said, hear our hearts, but we have to be willing to listen in order to make that change. And I
absolutely.
think that's where we have fallen in America, across the board. We're not willing to listen. When we say Black Lives Matter, does not mean that all lives don't matter, but in order for it to matter, we have to matter. I mean, if your house is on fire and the fire department gets there, and I'm saying, well, what about my house? Okay, your house is on fire. Okay, but my house is important, but your house is burning down. So make it make sense. Listen, just listen. That's all.
You got two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah, this is
Absolutely.
yeah. I going to that point to just listen. I've had, as we probably all have had, like conversations over the past week, 2 weeks, whatever. And I've had conversations with non-Black friends or non-Black coworkers, and you have the people who are awkward about the situation and don't say anything at all. And then you have some people who genuinely go, I don't really know what to say. I don't know what to do, but I'm here to listen. And sometimes, like, that's all, like in this moment, there's not a lot of perfect answers and perfect conversations. It's just one of those uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable conversations that we have to have as a people and as a human race at this moment. And like you said, listen, and actively listen and actively hear what's happening, and not just listen the whole one ear, go through one ear and out the other, but like actually internalize what people are saying and figure out where you fit in and where you can help make some form of a change, no matter what that is. And sometimes that change is just listening. You know what I mean? It's just that active part of it. Sometimes that is the change for the next
Absolutely.
person. I kind of going back a little bit, I think my experience as far as dealing with racism is some of it has been the covert. A lot of it has been the covert. I went to a PWI, getting to, the only Black face in an all white space, and in those uncomfortable situations. I work in corporate America, so that has its own connotation. But I was reading on Facebook this past week, and there's so many different memes out there and so many different quotes and stuff. But one of them really hit me. It said, at what age were you, what was the first age that a police officer pulled a gun on you? Like, not has a police officer pulled a gun on you. It's just, at what age was it? Right? And like, for me, unfortunately, the very unfortunate reality is I'm able to answer that question. Mm-hmm. And it's like so much truth in it. When I was 19 years old, I think I alluded to this last time we were on, or I was on your broadcast. When I was 19 years old, I was pulled over by the cops. Actually, not necessarily pulled over. It was a mistaken identity. They thought I robbed a bank. And about 10 of them pulled me over, snatched me out of the car. It was a very, very intense moment. At that time, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was about a quarter of a mile from my house. I could almost like physically see where I was going, like my home. And I saw the cop cars come up behind me. And at that time, I'm playing my music loud. So, whatever, I just pull over so that they can get out, I can get out the way and they can do their thing. But as I pull over, I realize they're coming behind me and more are coming in front of me. They had me like completely blocked off. And I was driving a 1991 Toyota Camry. And it was the kind that the seat belts like are automatic, right? And so as they pull me over, I'm sitting in the car, music blasting with my hands in the air. They're yelling at me and I have no clue what they're saying. I can't reach and turn the radio down. Mm-hmm. So I just freeze. I like legit freeze. They open the car, literally grab me by the collar, put me on the ground. And the craziest part is, and the reason I'm bringing this, I'm actually going into detail about it, is because once they get me out of the car, they put me on the ground in the exact same position that George Floyd was in. And when I first saw that video, I saw my face. I saw my face for almost 9 minutes. And this particular instance just hit me in a way that I could have never expected. And I think not everyone has that same experience. And they had me in that position and the other ones had guns pointed up. End of that story. But I think not everybody has been in that same experience, in that same exact position. But as you were saying earlier, Danielle, this particular moment is extraordinarily different. All human lives are human lives, and and all life is life, period. But in this particular moment, there's no debate, there's no question, wrong is wrong for literally, 8.5 minutes or whatever, almost 9 minutes. Wrong is wrong, and it's on display. You can see it. It's not like it hasn't happened before, but we all see it, and we're just in that time, with a lot of other factors going on in life, with the whole COVID situation, unemployment. Everybody's sick and tired of being sick and tired about something, and now you watch a man die, be killed, be murdered. And it just brings so many emotions to the forefront. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. That's the moment in time that we're in. And I think it's very important. I think it's extremely important that we all recognize that, and recognize it to the point of this moment in time, this moment in history we should take advantage of it. We should take advantage of it in many different facets.
Absolutely.
I think we are, once again, like I said earlier, we're in a very, very unique position we have a president who is doing crazy things. We have, like I said, a virus that we can't stop. We got unemployment, a financial crisis, and it just happens to be really hot outside. Like, it's just so many different things that are coming together to make this perfect storm. And I'm not even saying that in a negative way. It's just to make some change happen. So yeah, I look at it, I kind of, to circle back, this one for me, this particular moment in time for me is extremely emotional, as it is for everyone else. And anybody who's ever been in a situation even similar, you just, it's like your life literally flashes before your eyes.
Yeah. And it's just been, I've had, I have a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old, and just to hear him state, like, can I be homeschooled? That's been the top of the conversation this week. Can I be homeschooled? I don't want to go back to school. He doesn't like to go outside. And that was brought on by a bunch of different things, and we talked about in therapy. And he knows I'm sharing this. His thing was like with the school shootings and stuff, he doesn't feel safe at 16 years old. Like, what 16-year-old wants to sit at home? Now there's this other burden of, well, what if I'm singled out? I just want to be homeschooled. I don't want that issue, and so trying to navigate through this world, and also show him that we have to be stronger than the people that oppress us and try to suppress us. And so I won't rule out homeschooling, but I want him to stand up against fear, and be able to live his life. And it's unfortunate, though, that we have to have these conversations with our children, our nieces, our nephews, of take your hoodie off when you go to the store, take your hands out your pocket. If you're stopped by the police, put your hands on the dashboard, do not move. If they ask you for your driver's license or your ID, you let them take it out, tell them you don't have it. Because at the end of the day, even if they have to put you in handcuffs and take you down to the jail, let me handle it, because I want you to come home to me. And so I shouldn't have to have that feeling every time that he walks out that door of, is he safe? Is he a target? He looks like he's 13, but to a lot of people, they'll say, well, he was aggressive. How do we appear aggressive? How do, my words appear aggressive? It's just so many different feelings that I have. Like you said, I've been in the boardrooms and they're like, oh, you speak so well. And I was like, okay, how was I supposed to speak? Those different types of microaggressions where it's just like, I'm going to be honest, I am tired. There's no other thing that I can really say other than I'm tired. I'm tired of having to make amends for something that I shouldn't have to make amends for, and trying to get others to understand. I'm like, at this point, I want you to understand where we are. I want you to understand what I'm saying. At the same time, I've just come to a place where, like, I don't want to hold your hand at this point.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. that, all of that, it's amazing.
So I put my phone do not disturb, but apparently calls come through. I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But I mean, that's really, and I'll be quiet. I say that, but I won't be quiet, but it's a bothersome thing that, this has kept me up. I've prayed many nights, and I'll say this and then I'll let you interject and go on. My biggest thing that I would say to people, because I've had people say, well, Danielle, you just have to pray. Okay. I pray. And then what? We're beyond just praying. Prayer is wonderful, but the Bible also says faith without works is dead. So at this point in the juncture, we have to have action to couple with faith. Yes, we are to pray, but there are some things that we have to do in the body, to make some things move. We can no longer just sit by and say, okay, God, you work it out, but we're not doing our part.
Yep. So we've established that our experiences and the experiences of those that look like us rob us of a level of humanity that we are due. And it also robs our children of their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, to your point, prayer is the first and best thing we can do, but that prayer has more power when we do what we're supposed to do. So that's a good segue. What do y'all think are the necessary next steps to not just resolve the conflict, but have a lasting solution?
I think, well, yeah, honestly, I don't have a good answer. But I would say it in this way very broadly. I think there has to be, in this moment and coming out of this moment, there has to be tangible results. And what does that mean for me? Like, saying the word changing social justice or social justice reform or police reform, it's a great statement. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like, right? You can assemble together a task force of people to come up with a report and analyze how many people have been harassed by the cops, and it has this report. Then what happens with the report? Like, so like, I think that we have to figure out a way. A lot of smart people that are smarter than me, have to figure out tangible laws that we can put in place, from on the federal level, state level, local level, that we can put in place and enforce to combat what we've been going through. Just like, and I'll speak in opposite terms, just like they were able to put in the stop and frisk laws. They were able to put those laws in place to actually suppress us. We have to figure out laws that we can put in place that can have the opposite effect, as well as, I think, even not even just on a political level or a legal level, I think, and this is just from my personal standpoint, is like right now, the country's at its knees, basically, right? And we have a lot of the big companies trying to be on the right side of this or the correct side of this at the moment. I don't know if everybody's been getting the emails about our company does not stand for X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. Some companies have, given money to a cause, to the Boys and Girls Club or to some social cause or to a family or something. Great, all great things. But I know many of those companies that will write a check have not one African-American in the boardroom.
Yep.
On an executive level.
Absolutely.
Until those type things change, for me, it's all lip service. And it's write a check, be on the correct side of it today. And then in 2 months, when everybody dies down, we go back to the status quo and forget that this ever happened. But you have to, and not just making some random diversity team, some diversity initiative. That's all great. I'm not downplaying it. However, to me, it's a lip service. I've seen it. It's a lip service, right? There has to be people in in places to make decisions and to have a voice for, as we call ourselves right now, the voiceless, to have a voice for us. And in these particular entities and companies that we are not represented in. And I think if everybody wants to actually help, then let's actually make some change in that, some actual tangible changes, and not just put the token one in there, but actually make real tangible changes. Even in the NFL, you have a disparity of head coaches. It's like just random stuff like that. Like, and a job is a job. I'm not making having a job going to cure social justice. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, if we want to really, really cure this thing, we have to look at the long-term, long-scale policy to actually get us in positions of power to continue to make change. And that's just my bit on that.
Representation really does matter. I mean, on the issue of the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylors and the Trayvon Martins and the Sandra Bland saying their names, on the subject of them, we got police officers patrolling our neighborhood that are afraid of us. That's a problem.
Absolutely right.
Danielle, what's your take?
So, I mean, everything that he has stated, you're absolutely right. I believe that there has to be, we can no longer just talk about reform. We have to actually do that. And actually, a friend of mine had emailed me earlier and was asking my opinion on some things that he wanted to talk to some of our policymakers about. And he stated that, excuse me, he wants to end qualified immunity for police. Passing a bill that assists all police departments with installing the equipment needed to use body cameras. That is a big issue. Why are we paying thousands and millions of dollars for something that you say, oh, it wasn't on? Oh, when it fell off, it stopped working. It's funny because I can drop my phone right now and I'm still going to be on Zoom, and so how is it that in these instances that there's nothing to suffice to say to hold them accountable? If I go to my job and I don't have what I'm supposed to have on me, those are grounds for termination. So we need to be able to hold people accountable. I've heard people say, well, not all cops are bad. No, they're not. But if I can stand by for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and watch you have this knee on this man's neck and do nothing, you are just as culpable, if not more, than the person who put the knee on this man's neck.
That's right.
And so I'm sorry for yelling, but I am so angry. I'm angry that it took for this man to die, for people to wake up and see that something is wrong in America, and it's a heart issue. I cannot sit here and say that I love God, but I hate my brother. The Bible says that how can you love God whom you've never seen, but hate your brother who you have seen? That is a heart issue. And so if I'm saying that I love God, then that means that I would have to love you. Otherwise, I'm a liar. And so I know I'm kind of segueing all over the place, but, this is probably the first time that I've really been able to really just express my anger, righteous anger. And so I want things to change, but it starts with us. But it also causes our friends, I'm not going to call them allies, because when I look at the word ally, that's usually people from another country. And so we have to really start looking at the terminology that we utilize. I'm not saying walk on eggshells, you know what I'm saying? But think about the terminologies that we use. Think about what we're saying. And so just a couple of things that I had kind of written down. We can no longer be silent. There's no room for silence, because silence sends a message as well. If I'm standing there, like I said, we can go back to that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Silence cost him his life. Silence caused them to go to jail. There's always going to be a cause and effect. People are looking at the rioting and the looting and all of that type of stuff. I'm neither for nor against, because that sometimes is the language that people understand. But understand, we're looking at the effect of things, but we're not looking at the cause. Everything has cause and effect. If I go in here, if I have a bruise on my knee, that meant I had to hit my leg somewhere on the wall. But the cause of the bruise was because I hit the wall. We've hit that proverbial wall. So silence is no longer an option. It is not. That's for blacks, that's for white, that's for green, that's for purple. We can no longer stand and just be silent and say, well, I'm supporting you. My other thing that I would say, and I'll let somebody else talk, we have to challenge people who defend hatred. We heard today in regards to Drew Brees. Now, I'm not saying he's saying anything about hatred. Okay. Yesterday, he makes a statement in regards to he cannot stand with people that will kneel, and that type of stuff. But then you come back with an apology today. I have the right to not accept your apology, because apologies for me has to come with changed behavior. And for so long in this country, we have sat by and we've listened to people say, I'm sorry. If I hit you in the face long enough, after a while, you're going to say, you know what? You're not sorry. You just don't want me to react to what you're doing, but there's no changed behavior. And so what we have seen from long before we were ever born is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that there are Jim Crow laws. I'm sorry that there are black water fountains only. I'm sorry that you can't sit in the boardroom. I'm sorry that you can't go to this college. I'm sorry. But if I continue to do what I've been doing, to me, at the end of the day, the reality is you're not sorry.
It's passive.
There's no truth in that. We're built on a lie. We have built this country on a lie. And that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Danielle, there are many things that are built on a lie. You said a moment ago, there's a cause and effect for everything. The first thing we need to deal with isn't legislation. It's not government. And you mentioned broken. The first thing that is broken is humanity. You can change laws, but for every believer, we know that laws don't work. Adam and Eve couldn't follow the law. The Mosaic law didn't work. Legislation does not work. It's good. We need to change laws, but I personally believe there is a triangle that people should use the anger you were speaking about as motivation. The passion that we all now have, we need to use that and mobilize that passion by the people that are in government, which is part of our foundational triangle. They need to do what it takes, stand up and create that legislation for the corrupt police officers, for the corrupt preachers, for the corrupt leaders, right? But also, another part of our foundational triangle is, sad to say, the church is also, I won't say the church is broken, but the church isn't always doing what it should do, because the church, in my opinion, has part of the answer for the humanity problem. Because where else can you learn to love your neighbor? Where else can you learn how to serve God by serving your community? Where else do you learn how to be angry and sin not, be horny and sin not, be whatever and sin not? The church is part of the humanity issue, because the church causes us to look within ourselves to see the wretched creatures that we are outside of Christ. And then it challenges us to walk in a deeper love. It challenges us to walk in the love and the mind of God. But that's not the only part. But also we need to fix family, because many of these people are being raised and taught hate. We talk about systemic racism, but we're not qualified to deal with systemic hatred that is taught. We got babies that are coming out with Confederate diapers. we got babies that are so the human condition is where my grandmama would say, baby, you got to get to the root of the problem, not the root, but the root. And the root of the problem is that there are all these foundational things that are broken. And I agree, it starts with legislation. Yes, that's part of the answer, but that's not all. Church, schooling, those are foundational. And those three things, it takes all three. And so we have work to do as a society, collectively in all these areas, right? Because you can give me a rule, that don't mean I won't break it. But when I get this right, go ahead, Cameron. It looks like you want to say something.
Before you go on, I just want to let everybody know we've made a slight adjustment, an impromptu adjustment to our panel. I've asked Pastor Casper Cord of the Preceding Word Fellowship to come on as we segue into our conversation about the accountabilities of our faith leaders. So Cameron, to you.
What was I going to say? I guess to your point, Casper, I think you're 100% correct. I think it is a heart issue. I think it's a humanity issue. You don't enslave people if that's not a humanity. Like that's the crux of it is humanity. But also the way I see it, I guess, I'm 29 and still cynical, but is I don't know how you necessarily change someone's heart if they don't want to be changed. And this is the reason I say this, is a lot of slave owners went to church and still own slaves. And evil, I'll use the term evil is in the world, and evil, unfortunately, will be here. And I guess now the way, in my emotional state, I guess now the way I see it is all right, we've tried to change the heart of a whole bunch of people, and you'll always continue to change the heart of people in a marginal sense, but you're still going to have hatred, and you're still going to have this country that was built upon hatred. If you change 50% of it, you still got another 50% of it that is going to have this hatred in it. And I prefaced all this by saying this sounds very cynical, but it's just one of those, in my opinion, one of those unfortunate realities. And that's why, you talk about the triangle, that's why you have to have some form of legislation, because it was proven in 2016 that they didn't care about the evangelicals didn't care about being evangelical when they allowed this person to come in. So, it's I mean,
they weren't the evangelicals, let me tell you that, but continue.
No. I'm done. I guess the point I'm making is when you speak of the triangle, that makes sense, because it is a heart issue. It is a humanity issue. Like, this is, at the end of the day, this is evil hatred. At the end of the day, you can dress it up and call it whatever you want to call it. Racism is hatred. That's just what it is. And that's a person's heart. And that's what they teach their kids, and it keeps going. That's what we've seen. This isn't even anything new. This has happened since the Jews and Gentiles, right? So it just, in changing the humanity part of it and the heart, is also the other side of, while we're doing that, we have to do this to like arm ourselves against the ones that ain't gonna change.
Oh, absolutely. Can I interject real quickly? That's why I said it absolutely takes all three. It's not an either or, it's a and addition to, because granted, the heart. So let me start from the beginning. Just give me 3 minutes, and I promise I'm gonna shut up and pass it to Danielle. I'm sure she has a lot to say. And then Shafran wants to get in. But watch this. What is America? America is an ideal. And that ideal says something specific. And our frustration is that the idea of America is not for all, right? And so here's the hard thing. The actions of a few affect the many. In the same way, what is the Bible? What is Christianity? There is an idea, right? The slave masters who we mentioned, they took scripture and perverted it. These police officers, they're taking the law and perverted it, right? Husbands took the family and perverted it. People are always, there's always going to be evil, but that does not negate the idea of America. That does not negate the idea of the Word of God. That does not negate the idea of family. We need to focus on what should be, and those of us that are trying to walk in the real idea, we just need to continue to move forward, understanding I'm always going to have opposition. There's always going to be the counterfeit, but me, I'm gonna be the real fit. We can talk about what the church isn't doing, but I'm just talking about what the Preceding Word Fellowship is going to do. We can talk about what police officers aren't, but I'm going to focus on what police officers are. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be the answer to the problem. But understand, until we leave here, and probably after, these things will always be. But we cannot walk in, what's the word, cynicism, just because of the dark reality of things. Because if there's a yang, there's a yin. If there's darkness, there's light. I just want to be a part of the answer that helps the light overshadow the darkness and not allow somebody else's darkness to contaminate my will of light. You see what I'm saying? And so we need to use our anger as motivation, not cynicism, not, you know what I'm saying? This should motivate the work. People say that, bad men rule because good men do nothing. Right. And so this is just my way just to motivate all of us. We're saying the right things, but me, I'm on the side of my job isn't politics. Y'all don't want me up there. My jobs ain't police. I need to be the preacher. I need to taking the Stevens, the little kids of the world, to try to pour into them, to give them a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because that's necessary. But then the school teachers, but then the social workers, but then you know what I'm saying? We all have something to add to help, because I think Hillary Clinton said in the 90s, it takes a village to raise a child. And it's the same type. It's going to take all of us to add our, last thing I'll say, 1 Corinthians chapter 12 says that we are many members, but one body. We all are on the hand, but Danielle might be a thumb. I might be a pinky joint. Cameron might be the fingerprint, but together we can grab something, And so that's what it takes all of these things to get there. So I'm gonna shut up.
I was just gonna say, I totally agree. I am a proponent of letting your anger be productive.
Absolutely. Remember that next time I get angry. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
She'll handle that when y'all get off video.
Let your anger be productive. Otherwise, it's for naught. But we can't approach a multifaceted, multi-layered problem with a monolithic solution. Yes. To Casper's point, there is always going to be hatred in the world. It'll always be with us. But in the meantime, we do what we can, and we do our part in our lane. It just kind of reminds me in general, tangentially, how so many people are kind of sniping at each other right now about what each other is not doing. You see sniping because some people aren't saying anything. Some people are saying a lot. Some people are protesting. Some people aren't. Some people are blacking out their social media and other people aren't. They're doing it a different way. Right. We need all of it. Let's not be fooled. We need all of it. Find your lane and ride it. We all go in the same direction. One of the cars is carrying supplies, one is carrying food, one is carrying ammunition, whatever the case may be. But you don't abort the mission because you're missing one or more of those things. You got to go on and make do and make it happen with what you have.
And one of the things that I was talking to one of my high school classmates about, we were best friends from kindergarten all the way through high school. And I don't know if I was just like naive, but I mean, because like where I grew up at, pretty much everybody was white. You know, I didn't have like my first black best friend till I was in middle school, you know? So like I really didn't know like I was different. Like I mean, I knew I was different color, obviously, but I didn't really see at the time with the unaided eye that I was different. It wasn't until I was in middle school playing basketball and we went to a white town and we won the game, and the parents and the kids proceeded to call us the N-word. Um, and it took the sheriff's department to like lead us out of this little bitty town, you know? And so one of the things that Casper was talking about in regards to the church, I remember having a history teacher in high school, and he said, one of the most segregated times in the world is the 10 o'clock hour on Sunday morning. And so at the time I was like, you know, what is he talking about? Think about it. We have all black churches. You might have a little sprinkle of white people, and then you have all white churches, and you got a little sprinkle of black folks, you know. And it's like, if we are really one body,
Yeah.
why are we walking in different ways? Are we the problem? Is the church, you know? And I mean, I'm just asking that question, like, are we the problem? Did the problem, you know, obviously, you know, I feel like some of the hatred goes all the way back to the, you know, biblical days for different reasons. You know, folks can sell their own on flesh and blood into slavery, you know. And so I just wonder, are we a part of the problem and not the solution that we should be, because of how we have carried ourselves in the body of Christ when we have not reached out truly to our brother? You know, I do a lot of work with the homeless community and whatnot, but it's amazing what I've seen, not just here, but a lot of people don't want to get into the trenches of because of what someone looks like, because of how someone may smell. You may go into some places that you don't want to go, but are we a part of the problem and not the solution right now? And I guess I'll get that back to you, Casper.
Well, absolutely. In my opinion, so I've been pastoring for 3 years. I've been preaching for about 6 or 7, and I've come to realize denominationalism is the biggest counterproductive force in the triangle of the social church, right? Because we have these differences. Some people want fellowship with you because you're a woman minister. Someone want fellowship with me because I'm not a Pentecostal. Because, you know, some people, you know, we live in a generation that is so stylistically based. If, you know, if we're not singing like this, we're not having. There are so many small things that divide us. We live in a generation where if I don't like smoke on my burger, I can just go to McDonald's. But if I want if I want smoke on my burger, I can go to Burger King. If I want to do this thing in the church, I can go here. If I want this, we have so many options. It is the separation is inevitable. I think it too is a systemic problem, not always a heart problem, but we are one body, but we don't have one mission, right? Mm-hmm. Why is it that you can have big church on the corner? They can give thousands every year to go over to Africa, and you got 3 projects in your city, and you don't, and you will invest in international international missions, but you won't invest locally, right? We say it's the exact same problem. We say all lives matter, but all lives issues don't matter to you. We have in humanity things that we care about and things that we don't. And in the church, it's easily seen. In America, it's kind of swept under the rug. Like right now, many people are talking, you know, now it's popular. My question is, why did it take so many people to die for y'all to care. Now everybody cares, right? So it's the exact same thing in the church. And so for me, my answer is to try to be a part of the change, figure out who can walk arm in arm with me, and begin to. There's this one little song is the best example I can say. This little light of mine, I'm going to try to take my light and get as many flames as I can to create a big flame. Are we going to mess up? Yeah. Am I going to do everything right? No. But only thing I can do is move in the right direction and try to bring as many along with me, because there's another old song that says, give me that old time religion, old time religion, old time religion is good enough for me. It's good enough for my mama. It's good enough. No, if it's good enough for you, I don't want what my mama had. Man, no, I'm like Obama, change. Amen. So Danielle, there's many reasons. There's money. Church can be big business. There's beliefs. Certain people, that there's different, let's just say, translations or interpretation. There are so many things that divide us. And Danielle, it is inevitable. It's inevitable. It will not go away. So we have to learn how to move around it. We got to learn how to move with it. Denominationalism will not go away, just like hatred won't. But to your point, Cameron, we cannot change man's heart, but the word of God says that God holds the heart of the king in his hand, and he turns it whatsoever way he will. I believe that the rioting and all those things are good. I think it is good. I think because it has put enough pressure to finally bring about change. And so God took something bad and he used it for his good. So in my opinion, I just try to trust him. And there are some bad things that he will allow for a season, but he can make it work to good. So there's so many points, but in an ideal world, we should be together. But I just know it's not realistic, because the people that walked with Jesus, they were divided, right? Some of it is humanity, man, in my opinion. So, and I've known Danielle longer than both of y'all, but we don't always agree. You know what I'm saying? You can love somebody and not agree. So there's so many layers to this. The best thing we can do is, I think what we should do is celebrate our differences instead of finding fault. Let's celebrate our differences and move in the same direction. I'll shut up because y'all know I can take over conversation. Y'all go ahead.
I just want to make one point. I think, and you're spot on with that. I think my fear, if I can use that word, is, I remember when I had just moved to Nashville when 9/11 happened. Okay. Obviously things had happened before. And so we were already kind of like separated, that type of thing. 9/11 happens. Everybody starts to have this kumbaya moment. Let's come together. Let's hold hands, black and white. We're all one in everybody's sight. We were on fire. You know what I'm saying? Let's move. Let's do this. Let's stand together, because we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Everybody was just so on fire. Mm-hmm. Then the flame fizzled. Then you had something else to happen. You had Hurricane Katrina. Everybody's like, oh, let's love on everybody. Let's do this. Let's get these kids. Let's love on them, because God is love. And then the flame fizzled. Then something else happened, and it's this continual, I feel like I'm on a gerbil wheel of continuation of doing the same thing. And I feel like it's insane that here we are again. You had, 3 or 4 different shootings last year, mass shootings, and everybody was like, okay, gun control, we need to do this, we need to stand for our kids, this and the other. Then it fizzles. So it's like, now I'm seeing everybody like, what can I do to make change? And I want to be better. And what books can I read? And how do I learn to identify with Black people? And how can I do this? How can I bring this? And my fear is we're going to get to this point. We're at kumbaya right now. Some of us are, Malcolm X, boom, 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 but we're in this moment. And I'm waiting for any moment for the candle to fizzle. And we're right back where we started from until the next event. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting when I say by myself, because there's so many layers to what we see. You go into the hood, all you see is liquor stores and country stores and gas stations. Well, if I'm on food stamps and I don't have a car, I got to take a bus to get to the nearest Kroger, which is about 10 miles away. Yeah. And I got to ride the bus back. No, I'm going here to the corner store and get my kids snacks to eat with their teeth now are rotten because this is what we've done. But you're not going to go out to Brentwood. You're not going to go out to Franklin. You're not going to find a Dollar General anywhere out in that area. You're not going to find a check cashing place. All those things are terms of racism that we don't want to talk about. And so in order for change to happen, I'm just being honest, I need some people in legislative places that look like me, because I think it's past time when we look and we see, if you ever get a chance, I want you to go and Google the education to the prison pipeline. I know we don't have time to talk about that tonight because we'll be here all night long. But they have created prisons for Black and brown children more than they have schools, because they've already said that this percentage of these kids, because they come from single homes, poverty stricken, they've already counted out how many kids are actually going to go to prisons. They're not preparing them for education. They're not preparing them for higher learning. They're preparing them to leave school to go into the prison system. There is a problem. And that's why when I say there is a heart issue, because when you look at it, to me, it's just another form of slavery. They just gave it a different name and called it a prison. So I'm going to be done because we'll be here all night.
But that's the system.
There's so many levels to where I'm waiting, and I hate to be pessimistic. I'm waiting for the candle to burn out. Because we're on fire right now, because this just happened. You had Breonna, then you had Mr. Floyd. All those different things. Everybody's emotions are raw. Give it 3 weeks.
I think we as a people, just as a human race, has an extremely short attention span. Mm-hmm. Just in general, we see it with social media. Something is hot right now and the algorithm is on it, and then we move on to something else. But I think that's also the importance, again, of that multi-layered solution and everybody picking their lane. Everybody needs a champion. Kids in our schools need champions. Our neighborhoods need champions. So many different issues and so many layers to this big problem. We need people who are going to commit to keeping their attention and their investment in a particular issue long term, past when the attention span gives out. And Cameron, you look like you have a thought.
Oh, no. You can finish, but I was just going to agree with Danielle. I think you are 100% correct. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, that, right now it's just the perfect storm of how everything happened. And we burn things down and we're rah, but then what? I mean, we've seen it time and time again throughout history. It's almost like, look how hot COVID-19 was until a city burned down. Now, COVID, what? It's one of those, it's just how it's like the ebb and flow. But I do think, and that's what I was saying earlier, I think it is a perfect storm. And I think it is a time that we can take advantage of. Just like when 9/11 happened, airlines changed forever. And I think this particular moment in time is a time that something can change forever. And even going back to the last part of the statements of institutional and systematic slavery, like that is so real. And I think, we're talking about police brutality and injustice, but Shafran, you're correct. Everybody has a lane. Right now, racism is a hot topic. And if we can get the local politician or the local councilman to figure out how to put some pressure on people to get those liquor stores out because it's a problem, this is like right now in this moment, people would listen.
Yep.
And not everybody has to be fighting the same fight right now as far as, social justice as far as police brutality. You can have a silo of people in their community trying to get that liquor store out because that's a problem for us. You know what I mean? And I just think that everything you said is 100% correct. And this is just a time in history that it is really like 51 states having protests all over the world. Like this is historical, record breaking, all of that. It's a time that a forever change can happen.
Yeah.
You know?
And if I could just real quick, Cameron, to your point, think about this. This is to Cameron's point, but to Danielle as well, and everyone else who is frustrated. Think about this. Mama Dorothy says, many hands make light work. And if you think about it, Danielle, your point was, and I totally feel it and get where you're coming from, that your frustration is you're tired of gaining momentum and the fire fizzles out. I'm tired of having the conversation and then it being overshadowed. Right. This is an opportunity for us to talk about social injustice. Now we got to talk about the riots. It was a time to talk about social injustice with Kaepernick, and it got fizzled out by people talking about kneeling. No, but now we got 51 states. We got people in London. We got people all over the world. We got many flames, and it's hard to put out that many flames. And we got this blog right here talking about it. We got you talking about it. We got everybody in the world. There is too much pressure, and we're about to have a presidential election that is geared around this. So this flame, this time, this is it's pretty hot. This is pretty hot, Danielle. So be encouraged and just keep fanning it. You keep fanning that flame.
Yeah,
keep fanning
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do what I can. I just, for those who are watching and whatnot, I would admonish you all to really just research your local constituents and whatnot. Put the pressure on them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that's the part where, I'm like this. I'm not going to just talk about it. I'm going to be about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm the nicest person, but you push me to the edge. You don't want that side of me. I mean, Casper knows, we've been rocking and rolling for over 20 years, and so like, I'm in a place now where I'm just like, when I asked Shafran, I think I inboxed her like middle of last week, and I was just like, the mask is off. I'm done. I'm done holding my tongue and trying to convince people that because I talk so proper that you can talk to me any type of way and that we can do this. We are at a place now where I am asking people to go to your constituents, make the change, be the change. Don't just talk about it, because we can sit here all day and say, well, it's about change. This is a moment where the flames are building. Okay, so in that moment, what are we going to do? We need, not only do we need to push our constituents, but people in our own community, and I'm speaking to Black people right now, we need to really come together instead of the crabs in the barrel type of thing, and work together to put our money back into our own community. $1 in the Black community lasts about 60 seconds. But if you go into a Jewish community, it's going to last at least 3 days, and it's going to come back into the community. So what are we doing differently? We have to do something different and get off the gerbil wheel. Get off the wheel, come out the box. You know what I'm saying? And so I am looking to speak with my constituents this week and see, what are we doing? We need more farmed area. There's plenty of farmed area here. You know what I'm saying? Having local grown farms in this area. And I know it doesn't really deal with racism, but it does, because the access to food, the access, you can go out north and you'll find a McDonald's on every corner, Wendy's, whatever case may be. You're not going to find a grocery store, a farmer's market, or anything. These are internalized things that continue to push us down. But I can go 3 miles up the street and I can have all the fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, all those things. Access. All we're asking for is the same access that my white brothers and sisters have. We want the same access to all rights, not just in criminal justice. We want the access to all rights. If we say that all lives matter, then my life should matter just as much as the other person next to me. But meanwhile over here doesn't even have access to healthcare. That's a whole nother topic, but it's in the umbrella of everything that we're talking about. We don't even have the same access to healthcare. So I don't really know right now, logically, how we break down these different outliers. I really don't.
Well, I will say I definitely agree with you on dealing with our state and local government. A lot of people are looking at the presidency with all their eyes. And first of all, we don't have the heart of the king. We don't have right now even the ear of him, seemingly, because anyway, but the things that impact your day-to-day life, those happen with your city council, those happen with your local government, your state government. So I also urge anyone who does not vote in those elections, make this your year to start doing so.
Yes. And 10 seconds, I promise you. Danielle, you said something early. We need people in there that look like us. I just want to add to that, look like us and think like us, because there's too many people that look like us that are not sensitive to our needs, not sensitive to what's going on in the communities, and they don't have your best interest. I'll shut up. Go ahead, Cameron.
That's a whole nother topic and a whole other show to fry.
Yeah.
So you might get ready.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
But speaking of that, I know that our audience tonight is a mixture of different backgrounds. And I also want to thank everyone who has joined tonight, not just in anticipation of the discussion, but in anticipation of learning something and getting a better understanding of how they can get involved. So I want to ask this group, what does, I will call it allyship, what does that look like in this time for people from other races and backgrounds? What do they need to know going forward about their role in the current fight?
Go ahead, Cam.
I'll start, and I'll be quick with it. From my perspective, one, as we said, silence is action in itself. Staying silent and closing your ears and your eyes to the situation, that's not an option at this point. Mm-hmm. So it's engaging, I think. And I think some of it is if you're really trying to learn something and know something, it's coming out of your shell. I know, and not every personality is different, but coming out of your shell. And if you do have African American friends or Hispanic friends or whatever, opening up a conversation. I personally feel like I shouldn't have to go to a non-colored person, whatever the term is, a person that is not Black. I shouldn't have to go to you and go, hey, this is an issue to me, and I want to talk to you about this. Like I shouldn't have to make that. I'm the one that is being wronged right now. Mm-hmm. So reach out to those people and have conversation. I think listening, as we were saying at the top of the show, listening and actually hearing. And I know Danielle, you'll probably say this better than me, but listening and hearing with your heart and opening that up. And once again, every personality is different. So not everyone is going to go, burn something down in the street or go do something, but whatever your heart is led to do, if you are a person of prayer, if you're a person of service, whatever you are, then use that in this particular realm and have that conversation with if you don't have a Black friend, maybe you need one. Just look at that circle and extend yourself, I guess is a word to use.
Let me jump in here. You said if you don't have a Black friend, you need one. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm all right because I have Black friends. Yeah. What does that really mean? Do you actually know what bothers them? Do you understand their plight? Do you not see color, or do you see color because you acknowledge the differences in what they face than you? So yeah, it's not enough to just have Black friends if you're not willing to acknowledge their struggle and advocate to the best of your ability on their behalf. Also, me, Cameron, Casper, Danielle probably all got a speech when we were this high about the fact that we would be perceived differently in the world, that we had to be twice as good, that we had to work twice as hard, and that it might still not matter, because clearly respectability politics is a whole nother conversation. But we all had this talk about what we would face in the world. Talk to your children young about what racism looks like, how to treat their friends. Teach them those differences. Don't teach your children not to see color. That sounds great,
yes, no.
but don't teach your
One of those
children
things.
that, because it totally diminishes, it diminishes the differences that accompany being in this skin. We're Black when we get up in the morning, we Black when we go to sleep at night. So talk to your children. If you see something, say something. When you hear people making racist remarks, when you hear people, see people doing things that you know aren't right, your voice will carry a different kind of weight than ours will, because of the influence that peers have on each other. So if you see something, go ahead and speak up, because in cases like your George Floyd's and so on, it can be the difference between somebody's life or death, whether or not you sat by and let it go on.
I just have 2 comments and I'm done. Reactive, proactive,
Yeah.
cause and effect. We are a country of reacting. So now something has happened, we react. Somebody gets shot, we react. This happens, we react. We have to be proactive in saying that we're not going to do this anymore, because the cause will cause effect. It will cost people money. It will cost other people their lives and whatnot, fighting for a cause. And so we just have to rise above what is seen and look at what is not seen and work together and build off of one another. And just asking questions. I've had a lot of people this week that have asked me questions. How? Can you tell me how I can help? You know, and so going back and diving in to looking at what are some of the societal problems that we face. Be okay. That it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now it's not the time to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I can't be comfortable with my weight if I'm overweight and I'm looking at dying and diabetes and everything else. Now is not the time to be comfortable. We have to come out of the box, take the mask off, recognize that there are issues, recognize that I may be a part of the issues, and what am I going to do to change it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what I want to do, I'm just kind of scrolling through the comments. I also want to thank all of our viewers for how involved and participative they have been throughout. Um, we have a few comments from Tora Moore. It can be done one person at a time, which I think is so true, speaking to how do we attack this issue.
What's up, cuz?
51 states, Republican and Democrats in other countries came out to protest, not for the color of the race, but for the human race. This is indeed a human rights issue when it boils down to it. People need to stop judging and do their part and not worry about what the Jones are doing. All things work together for the kingdom of God. It is a must that we as a people release our model home teachings, period.
I like Sandra McCarty said, vote, vote, vote.
Absolutely.
We gotta put that in there.
Absolutely.
Please go out and vote.
Absolutely.
Please.
Oh,
We need you to vote.
And we've acknowledged that this is nothing like we've ever seen. It's an unprecedented time. It's absolutely an unprecedented time.
And I will be looking this week to find out how I can get the voter registration cards, and maybe that's something that we can do, in connection with the church and whatnot, going into the inner city, going out and whatnot to get people registered to vote. Because I think a lot of times people are misinformed. You've had legislation in regards to felons being able to get their voters' rights back, but that's something that they would need to do. And so our people need to be informed on how to go about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to answer your question. What word did you call it to our white friends? What did you say? There was a phrase you said.
Allyism.
Allyship.
Allyship. Danielle kind of to the heart of what I wanted to say, but I want to say it differently. I've seen so many people talking about their move. They was moved to tears.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if I'm only angry and I'm not doing anything, faith without works is dead. If I'm only crying and I'm moved to emotion, that's not moved. Even and I y'all know when y'all get me, you're gonna get preaching, so just get over it. But even if I tell God I'm sorry without repentance, he doesn't accept that. We have to be moved here and allow what's here to get in our feet, get in our arms, get in our legs. And so even as a pastor, man, I have a congregation of different races and ages, and I have to understand their individual plights and try to help them navigate the answers. Right? I have to walk with them. A pastor has to smell like sheep. A parent got to smell like Cameron got to smell like baby boo boo right now, because he got to change the diaper. He got to get in there. And so to our allies, if you're truly an ally, you are an ally if you aren't walking with us. And think about this. We have a culture, we have a system of voting for our issue.
Mm-hmm.
If voting for my issue hinders you, I need to rethink my vote. If voting for a president, if I'm gonna vote for a president, that means I'm gonna continue to get slayed in the streets, that this president's gonna send dogs on me, this president's gonna shoot me, you cannot care about my well-being, and you are not an ally, right? So we need to really look at the whole picture and really, is my silence or is my action putting my knee on somebody's neck? And I firmly believe by voting for the president that's in there right now, I am voting against Danielle. I'm voting against Shafron and her kids. I am voting against every Black person. I am voting against the idea of the liberty in America. I'm a pastor, and I'm going to say it. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I got a pastor friend that told me to my face recently, before all this happened, but he said he voted for Trump and he probably will again. When I see him face to face, we're going to have a conversation. And if he tells me still that he will still vote for him, I'm going to tell him, man, I can't roll with you because you're not rolling with me. My life cannot matter to you if you are voting for that, right? And so we have to draw a line in the sand, and I'm willing to walk alone. I'm willing to live without you because you're not my ally. And if you won't hear my cry, if you won't hear my complaint and acknowledge it and help me up out my ditch, I don't need you no way. It's that simple. And you're not my brother, you're not my sister when you see me in the ditch screaming, pleading. So what? You go to church. There in the Bible, there was 3 people, and I'm gonna shut up. There was a preacher, a lawyer, and somebody else, but it was the non-religious person that stepped in and did something. It was the Good Samaritan. And there are a whole lot of religious people that don't have the heart of the God that they say they do. And so if you're truly an ally, make your vote count and stand with us, because too many people in the past, let's just say 3 years, have died under this watch, under this watch. And that's all I'll say.
Well,
Yeah.
one more comment that I thought was very poignant. Don't say stop silent, but don't speak out in ignorance. Speak out with a message that helps promote change, guidance, and instructions on how to move forward toward a common goal. So
And I
I
think that's important. And
mhm.
that is definitely true. But I also think that we have to give people room that even if they do speak in ignorance, it's my job to help them to understand. Seriously. Because and what I mean by that is you have some people who truly want change, but they don't understand. So they may speak in ignorance. And so it's our job to help them to seek change. That's all. Are
Oh,
you
that's
laughing
good.
at me,
It's our
Casper?
job to help them see change. That's good.
Are you laughing at me?
No, no, no. I was laughing at Cameron. Cameron got disconnected. He made a comment that made me tickle. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like, what I say? But
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place to kind of let us marinate on this going forward. I want to shout out a couple of people. First of all, Joy Greenewalt Lay and Benjamin Lay. I want to thank them for their allyship, for watching this broadcast with us and inviting some other people from their community to come and have this conversation and to listen and understand. Love you guys to life. I also want to shout them out right now. Her and her husband are suing the state of Tennessee to allow citizens under 60 to request a mail in ballot for the November election. So they've been working very, very hard. Um, to bring some equality on the voting rights front. And those are the kinds of actions we're going to need going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at the legislative level, we need people who are willing to speak truth to power. So I wanted to shout them out for that. And also, I want to give a shout out to Darren Rankin of Pure Thoughts for giving me this t shirt that says, "Don't lose the faith." I just want to encourage you that no matter what things look like, it's imperative that we don't lose the faith, because when we lose the faith, we lose the fight.
Come on.
So if anyone is interested, hopefully you can see in this shirt or others like it, you may contact him on Facebook or Instagram if you're demonstrating. A lot of these shirts have been worn to the protest. So that is either Poet Rankin or Darren Rankin on those mediums. So with that being said, I lost one of my co-hosts. They're dropping like flies tonight. But I'm so glad and thankful that Cameron was here, that Danielle was able to be with us, that Casper was able to pop in to give us a wonderful, round, robust topic. It's a meaty topic that deserves to be marinated. So,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
um, closing remarks, round table. Danielle, do you have any closing thoughts?
Love's in need of love today.
Oh man,
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'm trying to remember the rest of the words to that. Don't delay. Send yours in right away.
Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
Um, my closing word is an ideal isn't worth having if that ideal doesn't benefit all.
Mhm.
The American flag is an ideal that, as a Black man, I'm gonna be transparent. I'm 41. I have never been patriotic in this country because I have never seen the liberty and the freedom that we are supposed to have in this country. So I am not patriotic at all. Amen. And most of the Black people that I know, 4th of July is a day to barbecue and see family, not to celebrate this country that does not hear its cry and does not honor its red blood that is in that flag, nor the red blood that is being spilled in the streets right now. And let me say this, to my conservative brothers and sisters, I love you. I agree that abortion is an issue that is not God's will. But if you care more about an aborted baby that you do these babies that are living and breathing and giving them the help that they need, you are not conservative. You aren't even pro-life. Amen. And so you are not pro-life. If you're not pro my life, you are not pro-life. You just have your self-righteous standard that you want to stand on. And standing against abortion is good. But baby, this is America. I'm a pastor that does not believe in it, but I'm not going to force my view on anyone. I can't do that. But I am pro-life, but I'm pro-life before they get here and while they're here. And while we're here, especially if you call yourself a Christian, be for real about pro-life, because I got warm blood coming through my veins. Amen. And so if you're not pro my life, you're not pro me. So just excuse my passion, but I have to say that because perhaps I don't think many people really think about that. And so when you go to the polls, if you're really pro-life, balance that completely and don't only think about abortion, because there are many other wrongs. Amen. So I'll shut up right there because I don't want to offend, but I really want my allies to understand what hurts. If you're listening, let's have a conversation. And
absolutely.
So I'll shut up.
Well, I will say this in closing. I am a firm believer that what benefits the least of us benefits everybody. The bar, the litmus test of an evolved modern society is the status of the people at the bottom of the triangle. So if you feel like this isn't affecting you, it's not a problem for us, or why is this important? When you lift up your brother at the bottom of the ladder, you come up too.
Come on here.
So this isn't just about, this is about Black people. This is about brown people. This is about all people, because when we make things right for those who are marginalized and oppressed, we make it right for everyone.
Amen.
So again, I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank all the viewers that tuned in tonight. I want to thank Sweet Tea Gems. I'm missing a gem today. Shout out.
We miss you, mama.
But we'll be back in 2 weeks on the Sweet Tea Gems channel to deal with fatherhood and talking about the joys in that journey. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been an awesome discussion and a privilege and an honor to have spent this time with you tonight. And we thank you and wish you good night.
Good night.
Night, everybody. We love you. Be encouraged.